You are never going to practice 8 hours a day. As much as you want to, as much as you think that's going to be useful, as much as you want to live your life in a way that you can create that space and afford that time, as much as you see and admire and want to emulate the masters, insert whoever, Coltrane, Charlie Parker, Steve Vai, Paganini, Mozart, blah, 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 blah. As much as we want to emulate and do what they did, people like that are in the 0.0001% of artists and humans of all time. They are horrible examples to really model our practice life after. And I mean that with all sincerity and with all the love and affection in the world. I mean, all those people are so amazing, and there's many more that I can name. But achieving that lifestyle and achieving that level of greatness is not tenable for most of us. And I'm not saying you can't have greatness, because you can absolutely be great and incredible at your craft. But you are more likely going to fail if you try to practice 4 hours a day versus picking up your instrument 5 minutes a day. Here's why. As soon as you start to conflate the amount of time you practice with the amount of progress you're going to achieve, things are going to fall apart. Why? Because invariably, you're going to probably quickly enter a period of time where you're not able to practice as much as you intended or as much as you think you need to be practicing. And as soon as that happens, you start enabling a circular negative thought pattern and behavior cycle that goes like this. You intend to practice 2 hours today. You only get to do 40 minutes. Thus, you're pissed off. You're mad. You didn't accomplish what you wanted to do. And now the next day, you have to make up for your transgressions from the day before. So now you have 2 hours plus another hour 20 to make up in your mind, right? Because all those minutes, you put in the minutes, you put in the work, that's going to equal the same amount of linear progress, A equals B, in this scenario. More that happens, after 5 days, you don't hit that 2 hour mark. Now you're chasing time, right? You're on borrowed time. You're never going to make that time back. So now you either keep practicing and you're angry, or you just don't practice and you say, fuck it. Or some combination of the two. So can we please reframe and reprogram the way we interact with practicing? Because you have to practice. That's 100% no doubt about it. We have to practice to get better at our craft, whatever that craft and pursuit may be, whether it's your hobby, avocation, or your vocation, your means of making a living. We all got to practice to get better. Instead of making another New Year's resolution saying, I'm going to practice blah, 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 X, Y, and Z amount, and, blah, 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 get this good, blah, blah, blah. Let's have a hilariously low bar to clear and start getting consistent wins, consistent good feelings, and good attitudes about your relationship with an instrument. In my case, the guitar, but it could be whatever. So I'm going to ask you right now, how much time do you think you should be practicing to get to the level that you want to achieve? I'll let you think about it. Why don't you pause right here? How much time do you think you need to practice? Whether it's hours per day or amount per week or whatever, however you want to tabulate it. How much do you think you need to practice to get as good as you want to be? Pause, figure it out. Okay, great. You have that number. Now think about on your worst weeks, on the absolute most fucked weeks. Work's crazy. You're sick. Family stuff. Travel. You get lazy. You want to play video games. You want to do whatever the fuck else. Think about those weeks where there's going to be a lot of external and internal factors getting in the way of that number. What is that number realistically now that you've thought about your worst possible week? So, in the worst case scenario, what can you achieve? Pause and get your number. That number is still probably bullshit. It's still probably bullshit. Because you're probably thinking, well, I think even in my worst weeks, yeah, I could definitely do X, Y, and Z. And I'm not going to say a number because that's different for everyone. But your number is probably bullshit because it's still one that you feel like you need to aspire to. I don't want a number that you can aspire to. I want a number that a fucking Neanderthal could do. Right? No disparage to Neanderthals. And I'm sure they've gotten a bad rap, blah, 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 blah. But you know what I mean? In the most elementary of settings, what's the number that you can hurdle and be like, wow, I could have done this when I was 5 years old? So I want you to half that number you came to. So in the weeks that are your worst, the number you came to, I want you to divide that by half, cut it in half, and I want you to think about the amount of days that you do that. I want you to take 2 days off of that. Okay, so if you said, I'm going to practice an hour a day for 7 days, you're going to practice a half hour for 5 days. That's kind of the logic here. That's the process. And I really want you to come to a number where you're like, this is kind of stupid. Like, my number is now 8 minutes. Like, what the fuck is the point of this? That's exactly where I want you to be. Because you know what's going to happen. Let's say 8 minutes, 4 days a week. Great. You're going to achieve those 4 days, 8 minutes, every time, every week, because it is such a low bar. And now, your relationship with practicing is positive. Because once you've hit 8 minutes, you might be like, okay, fuck, I got other stuff to do. I'm out. But I did my 8 minutes. Boom, positive. I've got a win under my belt. Or you're probably going to find yourself practicing more than those 8 minutes. Could be 10 minutes, could be 30 minutes, could be an hour, could be whatever else more. And all of that is extra. That's a cherry on top. That is more time that you get to bank with your instrument, but it is not time that you're chasing, right? That's extra free time. I will tell you from experience, as a professional guitarist for over a decade now, the amount of time you practice has very little to do with it. The amount of time that you practice has very little to do with your progress and the product. It is what you do with that time that matters. And it is the consistency of that practice space, that head space, that craftsmanship, the consistency of a high level in which you're putting yourself in that space. Those things are most important. So you have to understand what practice is and isn't. What is practice? For me, practice means anything that's not necessarily like learning music for a gig or rehashing stuff I already know really well or just quote unquote noodling, right? Whatever that is. Those things are my loose category. Like, that's not practicing to me. If I'm shedding for a gig, I'm shedding, but that's not practice. If I'm consistently playing things that I know over and over and over, that's not practice. If I'm kind of moving my fingers and playing the guitar, but without much of a goal or clear trajectory in mind, that's not practice. Now, all of that is fantastic, and that's part of what I call free play, right? Free play is super important. Like, all right, here's my fuck around time. I'm just going to pick up the guitar, play some songs, mess around with effects, diddle around with my amp, whatever that is. That's free play, and that is definitely part of the process. However, you need to have elements of your musicality and musical ability on the guitar that are challenging, uncomfortable, and take time. That's what practice is. It's getting into that uncomfortable space and saying, I'm actually going to focus on the things that I'm not good at because that's what's going to make me better. So, with a lot of my students, I tend to put a practice template into 5 buckets. Rhythm has anything to do with rhythm, whether that's keeping yourself rhythmically accountable with a metronome, a drum loop, or a backing track. Working on rhythm by meaning like, okay, can I count and clap rhythms? Can I write and read rhythms? Can I play certain rhythms on the guitar? Like, can I switch between triplets and 16th notes? Working on specific rhythms, and or working on quote unquote rhythm guitar parts or musical elements, musical riffs or ideas or songs, etc., that are very rhythmically inclined. All of that is whatever, that bucket. The next bucket would be repertoire and listening. So that's what songs are you learning? Are you learning a song to be a completionist because you want to learn a whole song? Or do you want to learn a part of a song because it's really cool? Or do you want to learn a solo because you want to figure out a certain technique someone's doing? What are you listening to? What are you actively listening to that's helping you uncover your musical aesthetic and what you want to aspire to and emulate? The next bucket would be technique. It's anything to do with how we physically interact with our instrument. Right hand, left hand, the meeting of those two. And then theory. That's going to be the understanding and the internalization of the fretboard, knowing the notes, knowing how those notes fit into musical scales in Western, theory, how those fit into triads and chords and then chord progressions, and then how those elements could then be possibly spun into modes or other scales or other concepts for improvisation or writing, all that stuff, those cerebral elements. Those 4 buckets are certainly not abstracted. They're all going to spill into each other. That's why they're buckets, right? So they're not completely distinct and bespoke and separate from each other. However, it is nice to have some loose categorizations to guide your practice time. And then the 5th bucket is free play. As I mentioned, that's anytime, you want to just put on a loop, put on a backing track, jam, just shred, noodle around, play with effects, that free time. Play the songs that you already know and have played 1,000 times, that kind of stuff. That's also crucial. Because the thing about people that want to say, oh, I want to get real serious about practice now, they immediately decide that fun and enjoying it is not part of their future. Well, I got to get serious, so that means I can't have fun. No, you can be serious and have fun. They are not mutually exclusive. In fact, the combination of those two is the key, the source of energy, the perfect alchemy of being able to do this for your whole life at a high level. The key to being a musician for the whole entirety of your life at a high level is combining seriousness with enjoyability. That's what it's all about. I would not be here if I didn't have fun playing the guitar. Is it always fun? No. But have I created a space in a life and a career in which I often do have fun and enjoy what I'm doing? Yes, absolutely. Do I also create space and put myself in situations where I'm very uncomfortable and am having to play at an extremely high level and to teach at a high level and to do whatever at a high level that requires serious craftsmanship and artistry? Yes. All of the above. That's so important to me. So please, wherever I've ended up with this polemic, thanks for sticking out, reframe what practice means. Figure out what practice is and find that number through the formula I talked about. And I want you to see how long you can clear that hurdle. Because that number it's not set in stone. It could move, it could fluctuate, it could go lower, it could go higher. But we want to find that space where you're consistently clearing that bar, having positive wins, and feeling good about your relationship with the instrument. Lastly, you have to understand that progress is not linear. If you practice 5 days in a row, it does not mean that you're 5 days better. It does not mean that you're 5% better if a day equals a percent, whatever. That is not how it works. There are times when you're going to have extreme growth, you're going to see it right away, then you're going to plateau, where you're not going to see growth, and then you might even dip down. You might even feel like you're going backwards, but it's all part of the process. As long as, by and large, we're going up and to the right, whichever way is up and to the right over time, that's what's important. So record your practice sessions, record yourself playing, have some sort of living document of what you've been working on. So then 3 months from now, when you feel like, shit, I haven't done anything, what am I doing? Go back to those first couple weeks, watch yourself or look at what you're practicing. You're going to notice, oh, wow, I've actually got some stuff together. Let's keep this going. So with the new year, don't make a New Year's resolution. Please, just don't even do anything about practice. Just wait till like March or something to tell yourself you're going to do something with practice, because this is that time of the year where everyone around you is going to have different resolutions, and all of you are going to fail. Well, I mean, let's be honest. The science is clear that most people fail their New Year's resolution. So don't be one of those. Figure out your formula. Figure out your practiced relationship. Get back to me. I want to know what happens this year. I hope this has helped you.